Before we dive into this video, I do want to let you know it is sponsored by Jensen USA. Any purchases at the below links will directly help support my channel. Beyond that, I have a few industry affiliations I want to disclose. I'm a longtime sponsored IBIS athlete. I'm still sponsored by IBIS in 2020. I'm also supported by Trust Performance, Industry 9, P&W Components, Cali Protectives, Kitspo Cycling Apparel, and Shimano helps me out as well. Okay, let's enjoy the video. Today's a special day. I'm gonna be, for the first time ever, checking out a bike that's not an IBIS. A big part of why I wanted to change up my program for 2020 is that I wanted to ride some different bikes. Not just different brands, but totally different types that IBIS doesn't even make. And one of the first bikes that I wanted to try is actually an e-bike. I have ridden bikes from this brand before, but it's been an awfully long time. This is not my bike to keep. I'm sending this back in a few weeks, couple months, something like that, we'll see. And it's not a brand new bike, it's a demo bike, so it's definitely been ridden before. That said, I've never ridden it, and I'm super pumped to get it out on the trails. Got a break in the rain, let's pop the box open, see what we're working with. I'm excited for this one. This is very different than the bikes I've been riding recently. As far as I know, this is how a brand new Intense Tazer e-bike would ship to you in a box. I did get a separate box with a battery. Let me grab it. Batteries have special hazmat requirements, so I guess they ship separately from the completes. No big deal. UPS, FedEx. Let's pop this thing open. And then I can start charging batteries and go for a ride. Ooh, thing's in really good shape. Cool. Welcome to Intense. Why, thank you. Battery key, okay. This looks critical. What's in here? Oh, it's a charger. This is important. It's seen some miles too. I did finagle 2 batteries, and that's because the one time I rode an e-bike previously, I rode a Pivot shuttle. You can see that video up here. Joe Murray and I each blew through a battery in like 45 minutes to an hour, but that was on full throttle, moto style trails and boost mode the whole time. So I figured ask for 2 batteries, see if I could get away with it. They delivered 2 batteries, so I'm gonna start charging one of them. Got 2 wheels. Not as hammered as I thought they'd be. Sweet. Oh, it has a fender. I can ride in the winter. Perfect. You want to throw that down? Thanks. It's not that heavy. It doesn't have a battery or wheels or handlebars, but it's carbon, so it's not crazy heavy.
That fender is sick.
Yeah. Pop this thing off the tripod. Take a look at this. Yeah, that's a custom fender.
I want that on my bike.
Free up our SLX derailleur. I mean, it's cool that it's in there. I don't even know how it goes in. Let's take a look inside the battery hole. This is what happens when longtime IBIS riders try to figure out a different rear axle. H1700 hybrid wheels. 35 millimeter internal width. These look pretty convincing. I wonder how good the free hub is. 24 points of engagement on the hub here. Let's get this thing off the stand. Let's weigh it. All right, tires at 0. I hope the saddle doesn't break. Oh, not bad. This weight does not count without pedals, but I think everyone should guess what this thing weighs in the comments below. It's actually lighter by about 6 pounds than what I was expecting. What were you expecting?
It seems like about what I was expecting.
Oh, you can't say that. All right, let's see what this thing says. So, 49 pounds, no pedals, but otherwise ready to ride. So there's been 2 hours on this bike, 23 miles on this bike. Wow. I need to show everyone what's going on this bike, but I'm too excited to show everyone. I'm gonna go ride this thing outside. I'll see you guys in a minute. Oh, it's raining. This thing's gonna take some getting used to.
It'll take like a day.
This thing's sweet. I really wanna go e-biking. bikes aren't legal on Galbraith or Chuckanut back home in Bellingham, our local riding spots. So an hour north, here we are, Chilliwack, BC on Better Mountain, where e-bikes are okay. And on other trails, you can actually ride your gas-powered motorcycles, but you can't ride your e-bike on the real motorcycle trails, interestingly enough. There's a lot of stuff I really like about the Tazer and a couple minor nitpicks, so let's get into it. I really like the way the Tazer handles, the way I can just throw it around, throw it into corners, toss it like a trials bike and flip it around. That's really fun. A couple months ago, I did a video about a mullet bike experiment. I took my Ibis HD5, set it up like a mullet, and I did not like the way it handled. However, this guy rode really well with the stock mullet setup, and I think a part of that is because the bike was originally designed to be ridden like that. And also the tire spec, I think, makes a big difference there. So the 2.8 27.5 rear tire, it felt very appropriate. Lots of traction going uphill. It wasn't so big that it was annoying to get into corners on the descent. So the 27.5 2.8 worked really well. Then up front, the 29 by 2.6, that felt great as well. I had plenty of front end traction, and the drift point for front and rear was very balanced and consistent with this bike. So honestly, I thought the wheel size and tire spec was spot on. Speaking of spec, I think Intense did a great job when they spec'd this bike out. It has some slightly older parts on it, one generation older, SLX drivetrain, which worked flawlessly for me. It's an 11-speed. The tighter ratio cassette was awesome. The 165 XT cranks, spot on. The 203 rotors, front and rear, is really good. And the rear 203 rotor doesn't even need an adapter for the brake to fit on the frame. It's just natively 203 post mount. Fabric saddle, very comfortable for me. I had no problems with it. And the suspension feels appropriate. I like the way that DPX2 feels. I like the way that the Fox 36 feels, and it felt very balanced on the trail. I do have a couple minor nitpicks. In general, I think the Intense stuff is top notch. I have no qualms in recommending this bike, but I would prefer a deeper drop post, and this frame itself is pretty tall. So this is a 150 drop post. I run 170 and 200 mil droppers on my bikes, and I really like those 200 mil droppers. 170s I can work with. This is a 150, and on bigger jumps and stuff, I like having that extra space to move around. I can't quite fit a 170 on here. If the seat mast was lower, that would make me a little bit happier, but minor nitpick, Most folks don't jump as much as I do. Now, Intense is from Southern California, where it rains very little. Up here in Washington State, it's always raining. So I don't like the way that the window to turn the bike on and off is on the underside of the down tube, because my poor finger always gets muddy and grimy and gross and wet, having to reach in there when it's nasty out and turn the bike on or off. Finally, the other nitpick I have is that the Shimano battery mount loosened up on me. Trail side here, I'm having issues. Battery holder has loosened up, and you can see a screw right here loosened up. And then I just noticed there's another screw buried in the down tube, luckily captured. Makes me nervous about the rest of this ride. Now this whole thing is much more solid. I think this could happen on any Shimano equipped bike, so I don't want to say it's Intense's fault. I do think you need to adjust that battery position to keep the battery from being too loose, too tight. I'll need to go through this thing and double check that all the rest of the system bolts are tight. I thought I figured it out and I didn't. So I called the guys at Intense. They pointed me in the right directions. At one point I got stuck in the woods not figuring it out, not having small Allen keys with me, which was a bummer. Green lights are on. Little monitor. This guy does not fire up. So I don't know what's wrong with this thing. I'm gonna have to go back down the mountain and figure out what's wrong with this back home in the shop. I gotta carry more tools than this little guy. But I'm letting you know about this because you can easily pop that cover off, Loctite those bolts before you go riding. If you're considering an e-bike for yourself, make sure you've got legal places to ride them close to home. And if you're good with that, then I've had a lot of fun on this guy. Jensen USA is a great sponsor of mine. They're a great dealer of Intense. I can definitely recommend the Tazer. It's a great bike. I have a link in the YouTube description below over to Jensen to the Tazer listing. And if you buy anything at Jensen, it'll help out my channel as well. I hope you guys like this video. Let me know in the comments, what other bikes should I ride and test over the next few months? I have a follow-up video for this coming along where I dial this thing in exactly how I would like my ideal Tazer dream build to be, so stay tuned for that. I can't wait to get some more time on this thing. If you haven't yet, click that red subscribe button just below this video, and I'll see you guys on the e-bike approved and official trails. Cheers.